Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. And today I have another great guest for you. We have got Mary Beth Thompson from Soul Shines Coaching, who's going to talk to us from all the way over in the US to us here. So welcome, Mary Beth. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Hannah. I'm happy to be here.
I'm really happy to have you. And I know that we were just being absolutely silly before I hit record, and now we're trying to take it back down a level, back to normalness. Now you have many strings to your bow, don't you? You work as a psychic medium, you're a life coach, you work with color energy. And I want to pick apart all of this and talk to you
Okay.
about it all. But I know when you contacted me, you had listened to the episode with Jenny Jaranis, and you wanted to say that you too have had a journey where you didn't formally train, you didn't get
Right.
put through a sausage factory. So can you tell us how mediumship, spirituality manifested in your life?
Sure. So I didn't know until probably 2 years ago that you could even learn how to become a medium. I had no idea. I thought that people who were mediums woke up one day and had some experience and then realized, oh, I can communicate with loved ones in spirit. And so in my early 20s, so we're going back over 20 years ago, I had a dear friend. I'm actually coming up on her 22nd anniversary of her passing at 22 years old. And it was a tragedy. And I started to feel her presence. I started to connect with her in my dreams. And I just kind of felt like I could have this connection with her. And then shortly after that, my grandfather, who had died when I was only 8 years old, one day I was on the treadmill at the gym and he, clear cognizance where you just know and you
Yeah.
can't, I just maybe also clear sentience, like I just knew he was next to me. And this was my first real, I would say, felt more of a tangible experience where I thought, hello, grandfather, how are you? How can I help you? And clairaudiently, I just started to hear him speaking to me. And he had a message for my sister. And so I picked up the phone and called her to tell her the message. And she was very kind. In retrospect, I thought she could have thought I was cuckoo crazy and got, what are you talking about? But
Yeah.
she was very receptive and she, took the message. It had to do with a health screening and that's kind of the beginning of my journey. And I, over the next 20 years would hear from loved ones' spirits, whether it was a friend or a family member, and they would just kind of come into my awareness and I would just kind of pass on, little by little these messages. And I grew up in the Catholic Church. So that absolutely put a little bit of a shadow over me being public about this. I felt this a
Mhm.
little bit of shame, which I've worked through.
Good.
And so, yeah, so here I am.
I love it. And I just love the fact that spirit come to you and then immediately set you to work. They don't go, we're gonna just play around with you for a bit, Mary Beth, and get you comfortable. Straight away, your granddad's
Uh-huh.
like, now I've got your attention. If you could pass this message on for me,
Yes.
straight
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too, because now today, fast forward when I'm opening my chakras and grounding my energy and raising my vibration. I never did any of that stuff when spirit would come to me. So it's almost, for me, it's more ritualistic now to almost have a message to say, okay, I'm ready to work. But for 20 years, I was not proactively trying to reach spirit. They would just come to me and kind of use me as a portal to pass along. And so, yeah, it's been a really fun, interesting journey.
And I've got lots of questions actually
Okay.
about that because I did intentionally decide to follow a path. Somebody set me on it. They got my grandfather through and said, come join my group. And I went, all right, that sounds fun. And then ended up there and they were like, your turn. And I was like, no, I'm here to watch. And they were like, no. And I was like, what? So I did follow that path intentionally. But three of the spirits that I have had connections with in thousands now, the strongest ones, the three strong ones, were the ones where they approached me,
Oh,
where they were
interesting.
like, you're not trying to do this right now,
Uh-huh.
but we need you to say something to that person there. And it's only happened
Mm.
3 times to me in my journey. But it was so much stronger. It felt like the whole world tipped on its axis. It was undeniable. Whereas
Mm.
when I try and do it intentionally, it's
Mhm.
much more subtle. It feels like there's more of a process. Do you find that, or is it all the same to you?
That's a really good question. I definitely feel like when spirits come to me, they know that they can get my attention and that I will listen and I'll pass on the information. As far as me going proactively trying to reach out to spirit on behalf of my clients, um, I don't know. I can't say that I feel it's drastically different either way, honestly.
I love it. It's so
Yeah.
interesting how it works. Because I think the reason why it's different for me is
Uh-huh.
resistance. That's purely, that's all it is.
Oh,
It's my resistance. It's my nerves. It's my somebody's
uh-huh.
parted with money here, so you
Yeah.
better bring the goods, McIntyre.
Oh,
And
that's true.
and
That's
it's
true.
that kind, and then that
Yeah.
creates a
Yeah.
disconnect because I don't
Yeah.
think there's, spirit aren't going to stand further away and go,
Yeah.
ahoy, from the edges
Yeah.
as I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
floundering around. So
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
must be me. I love it. That's
Yeah.
so you've got spirits, you're speaking to your friend and you're suddenly aware that her dad's there.
Hmm.
You're speaking to your mom and you're suddenly aware that her dad's there and things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
You've got this
Hmm.
this stuff. What makes you take the step into offering it to strangers?
So, oh, do you mean as a business?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's a good story. So I spent the 20 years of my professional career, like my 20s and my 30s, in communications within healthcare and public relations and things like that. And all the while being a closeted medium on the deal. And so come to 2020, no big deal, just a global pandemic.
Yeah.
And I felt this intuitive nudge that I was supposed to look into life coaching. And I had been told anecdotally, Mary Beth, you'd make a great life coach over the years, but I didn't feel it was a calling of mine per se. And then something happened. I guess it was just the energy of the universe. Everything kind of shut down, and it's like you're forced to kind of look in the mirror and go, what am I doing? And so I just felt this nudge to look into life coaching. I went on to pursue it, research it, look into different types of life coaching. And I was drawn to more of a spiritual life coaching, shocking.
Yeah.
Originally I was looking at more of like a Tony Robbins type of life coaching, but I tried to go to one of his conferences that I paid a lot of money to go to, and I kept getting blocked from going. The first time my young daughter had a double ear infection, and then I was allowed to postpone going within the next year, but then the pandemic happened. So it was canceled. And I thought I'm not supposed to go to this. I'm not supposed to go to this life coaching conference. So then I thought, okay, let me go down the spiritual journey. And that's when I got trained as or I guess I should say certified as a spiritual life coach as well as a color energy coach. And so literally 1 week before I was flipping the switch on my website as a life coach, I had another nudge at, my shoulder to offer mediumship readings. And I'm like, what, are you crazy? I can't do this publicly. This is a private thing that I do. But I felt it so strongly and I thought, all right, well, damn, let me just put it out into the universe and see if this is something I can be of service. And I thought to myself, why would I keep this ability private when I could be of service for more people? And that's how I thought about it. And I was a bit terrified because I thought, up until that point, I had only ever done it reactively.
Hmm.
And I thought, now I'm going to have to do it on command for
Yeah.
money. And the biggest thing that really supported me was trust. I surrendered and I had complete and total trust that I would be able to serve spirit and I would be able to, do what I needed to do. And I did one practice reading with someone before I switched my website live, and it was one of the best readings I've ever done. And I felt like that was spirit saying, you can do this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I know that you've just put on your Instagram that you've, had your first professional readings
Hmm.
coming, So before, obviously, all of that time, you've just been doing it how you wanted to do it, which I
Yes.
think is fab in a way, because you're not
Uh-huh.
trying to fit your mediumship into any preconceived
Right.
idea of how it should work. Was there
Right.
much of a difference?
Okay. So because I've never had any formal training as a medium, I did join an online community mostly because I felt like I wanted to be around other like-minded people who I can talk shop with.
Hmm.
I felt a little bit like I was on an island, especially not having any training. So I joined an online community of other light workers, and that's when I was exposed to, oh my God, people can learn how to do this. They can take classes. Of course, I believe everyone has the ability, um, but I really just didn't understand that this was something that you could actually anyone can learn how to do.
Hmm.
And so it made me reflect and go, gosh, I'm almost glad that I wasn't trained because I don't have any parameters or conditions. I don't have to fit myself into a mold. I literally just made it up as I went, naturally based on my own intuition and experience. And so one of my mentors, I don't know if you know him, his name is Dougal Fraser. So he's a psychic, and he can see people's color auras, like literally with his eye. And so that's why I learned the color energy part of my business. But I was talking to him about it, and he's like, Mary Beth, it's actually a blessing because you've been able to just naturally follow the ability that you have in the way that it comes natural to you. And it was actually probably divine that it didn't work out any differently,
Hmm.
and that I can just go about it my own way.
Your
So
way.
I feel like I made it my own rules, and it's worked out really well.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that,
Mhm.
in finding your own way
Mhm.
within it.
Mhm.
So talk to us about an intuitive life coach. Like, what isn't for somebody who's listening who says
Mhm.
that's a fancy title? What is it? What is it? What do you do?
Okay, so as I was saying earlier with life coaching, I feel like there's different type of subsets of life coaching. And so for more, it's more of a spiritual life coaching. And I use color energy as the basis of my coaching. And
Oh,
so when I say color
interesting.
energy, I'm talking about your aura. Sometimes I feel like there's overlaps with our chakra colors versus our aura colors, but it's not apples to apples. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I basically help take people through different parts of their life of where they want to maybe understand where they have some limiting beliefs. Maybe they want to understand how they can live to their highest potential more. And so I take them through 9 different color energies, what they represent, and how they can use that color energy through meditations and activations and different exercises that I take them through to help activate and elevate those parts of their life. So, for example, your relationships. So, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your peers, your romantic relationships, your spiritual and soul level self. So, how to connect with your own intuition and trust yourself more. And then also the business, prosperity, and abundance part of your life. So, all of those 9 colors are divided into those 3 areas of your life. And I help my clients choose a goal for the duration of our time together. Usually it's not necessarily they're going to achieve the goal in that 10-week period, but it's for clarity and getting kind of tuned into what are they trying to achieve.
Hmm.
And then once we're done with our coaching, they now have a tool set, so to speak, where they can use those color energies to try to lean into what they want to work on. So for example, for this um, chat today, I wore green. And
Hmm.
so I did that intentionally. This, was not an accident. Color for green is communication and creativity. So I
Amazing.
wanted to be able to have this conversation with you and kind of embody the energy of communication and creativity and speaking up. And then I have a blue lapis lazuli crystal on my necklace, and blue is the color of truth and wisdom.
I love it.
So that's how you can use the color in your life when you're trying to kind of emphasize or accelerate whatever that color energy embodies.
Fantastic. So it's like a tool of intention.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so the colors, when you're working with color, it's particular colors for particular attributes.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
there's also a shadow side. So
Oh.
what I find with my clients is if they feel a resistance towards working with the color, it's all the more reason for them to actually work with that color because it means that they're in the shadow side of that. So I would say like a mint, if you can imagine like a mint color green versus an
Mhm.
emerald green. Emerald green is the color of communication and creativity, whereas like a mint vibrant green is the color that has to do with life force, energy, and enthusiasm. But the shadow side of that is anxiety. So I have
Mm.
found that some of my clients who suffer from anxiety, really resist that color energy. And I'm like, no, you want to call it in even more to kind of overcome it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And so you got into color through the life coaching, through your mentor, and then it just felt, I love how aligned your path is. I'm envious, green with envy about your path, because it's so aligned, isn't it? You are literally like minding your own business, spirit step in, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to follow life coaching, or not with Tony Robbins, who does great work, but
Uh-huh.
it's not soft, is it? It's very
No.
hard, his work.
Right. Right.
And I don't know if that would have fitted in with you and your energy in the same
Exactly.
way.
Exactly.
So I love it. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
So when you are out there in the world doing your work, how do you find that people expect you to have gone through some sort of training program? Do people, does it not come up? Like, how does that work for you?
Mhm. Again, I didn't even know that you could train to become a medium. So I think maybe the average person, I'm guessing, I don't know if this is true, don't realize that either. I think it's like, oh, you just are, you just have this ability. I just personally choose not to use the word gift only because I feel like then that implies that other people have it and some people don't. So I always say the word ability. But yeah, that's never once come up in any
No.
conversation. However, with the life coaching, that was a limiting belief that I had, was that I had to have certifications for life coaching. And my mentor again told me, like, Mary Beth, you actually don't.
Yeah.
He felt like I had this natural ability. And for 20 years that I've mentioned in my past, as I was a closeted medium, I also was doing a crap ton of personal development,
Yeah.
just lots and lots and lots. So it's almost like I was training to do both of these services, so to speak,
Your whole
unofficially. Or
life.
yeah,
Your
it was like I
whole
was
life.
training for it
Yeah.
and didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
That's why I went ahead and decided to get some certifications, because it was like I felt like I had to have them, but that's also
Yeah.
never come up either.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say, and I bet it only ticked a box for you and
yeah.
never for anything else. I've never, because I have no qualifications either. Just want to
Uh-huh.
make that really crystal clear. And it's only ever come up from other mediums,
Oh, interesting.
where they're like, where did you study? And then we play top trumps
Oh.
with who studied here and who studied there. And I'm like, I
Uh-huh.
just rocked up and my guides told me what to do and how to do it. Because weirdly, I trained to learn how to connect to spirit guides. And then I did do a little bit of teaching with other teachers, but the majority of my evidential mediumship teaching came from the spirit guide connection. So
Oh, okay.
they don't issue certificates in the quantum level. So that, I'm like, here it is. Can you see it? And,
Ta-da!
but it's a fascinating thing. And I think in the
Hmm.
UK, the problem we've got, and I don't know about the American markets, but in the UK, we have got this influx now of mediums who haven't done the work.
Right.
And that is a problem. They haven't been
Mhm.
training it for their whole lives. They haven't been integrating the
Mm,
shadow. They haven't been looking at ethical and true mediumship. And we've got this huge rise in
right.
social media mediums who are, it's chaos. So it would be interesting to see, because I know that some of the guests I've had on the podcast really think there should be some sort of system. But
Yeah.
in the UK, the accreditations are through the churches, and church is not the route for me. So
Right, right. And the same could be said, I think, for life coaching. Life coaching is also not regulated as an industry. So
yeah,
there could be some rogue, people out there who maybe shouldn't be doing this for money.
yeah, I
So,
know.
yeah.
Or taking it to the extreme, like Twin Flames Universe on Netflix.
Yeah. This is correct.
Which, have you watched all of it?
I think I got through 2 episodes and I was like, okay, I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah. It was
because
it was
you
painful. It was
you
painful.
you know it got crazier.
No. Oh,
Yeah, there's
man.
spoiler alert if you're listening and you haven't watched it yet. I mean, if you haven't watched it yet, where have you been? But they run out of people to pair each other up with true love matches, so they get some of the people on there to transition to a different gender.
No.
I was sitting there, I thought it had reached a pinnacle of craziness, and then that happened, and I was just
I can't.
it
I
is
can't. I just have, so I'm a big time empath. And then so I
Yeah.
just have, my first thing is so much compassion. I have so much compassion for everyone who was involved in that.
The
Um,
mums
mm,
whose daughters have transitioned and they've lost contact with them through that group, it is
yeah,
heartbreaking.
my
But
goodness.
it is also putting your empathy in a box. It is also great TV. So, and absolutely fascinating. But also, it's just things that people will do in the name of spirit, which is just nothing to do with spirit whatsoever. And
Mhm.
it's fascinating. Anyway, back to you. Um, you said you worked in PR and that how much do you feel like that has helped you on your journey? Because I believe anyone can be a medium, but I
Mhm.
think that you need to be able to communicate.
Right. Yeah, so writing and verbal communication has always been my one of my strongest skill sets, and that's what I did for a living for a long time. I always felt like I was mission based. I always tried to work for companies that had a greater mission for the highest good of other people. So again, it was like hospitals, healthcare who wanted to take care of people, nonprofits and charities. So I just tried to marry my skill sets with other like I said, businesses or companies that were helping people.
Hmm.
And then as far as my own business, of course, having the background of marketing and communications and being able to articulate my message has been very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And then I think being an empath, which you can't train people to be, right? It's like kind of you just are.
Yeah.
I feel like that has come in incredibly helpful in delivering really, really challenging messages for people in both my intuitive guidance, my mediumship, and my life coaching, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
Because you've got to deliver it the right way. The
Mhm.
message could be whatever the message is, but you have to make it fit your client, don't you?
Right.
Yeah. And communicate, I think it's such a important skill because you need to be able to put to words an
Mhm.
energy, a knowing, a
Mhm.
feeling. And that is a massively underrated part, I think, of mediumship is the ability to be able to interpret an energy into verbal or written or however you're doing it. So I
Yeah.
could see as soon as you said that you work like that in PR and stuff, I thought,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there we go,
Yeah. Yeah.
communication.
As a matter of fact, my first professional job out of college was at a news station because I thought I was going to be a news reporter. And I realized that's when I learned I was an empath. I didn't know there was a name for it. And also, it was way too tragic. And I just was like, this is not going to work out for me.
Yeah.
And so fast forward now when I do my sessions, and I hear this buzzword a lot called trauma informed. And so I feel like that's something I naturally kind of do anyways, and just trying to be very compassionate and hold a lot of space for my clients. But again, I feel like that's just not something that you necessarily can train. And from someone who has not been trained as a medium, and I watch on social media or other, TV shows, I never, just like I didn't want to become a reporter who was immune to tragedy, I never want to become a medium or an intuitive who is immune to what's happened on the other side of the table with my client. So I always say to my clients, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
At some point, I acknowledge that because I mean, I might be getting into the rhythm and the flow and sharing these messages and evidence and things like that. But I'm like, so I'm trying to do my job, but I also just want to hold space for them and say, listen, I'm really sorry that you've lost this loved one. So,
Absolutely. And I remember when my grandmother passed, and somebody said to me, well, you can't be upset believing in what you believe. And I was
oh
like,
man.
yeah, I can, you know.
Mm,
And so I think that's again massively undervalued, but so important for people to just acknowledge it and be
yeah.
present for that. I love it. I love it. So you were talking to me before we hit record that you lost your brother in July.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Now, how did that, because you said that changed your perspective and your
Mhm.
relationship with spirit. Can you
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So my brother's name is Bobby. He's my oldest brother, and he had cancer, and it was over a 4-year period of time. And when he passed, I I felt, well, I will say this, as a medium, I feel very, very grateful and lucky that I have this connection with him in spirit. From the moment he crossed over, I feel like I have, if you can imagine, a switch on a wall to flip on a light switch. it's like I have the ability to communicate with him like that. And for the first 3 months since he passed, I felt so honored and grateful and almost, how would I say it? Almost, I felt almost felt bad for my other loved ones. It was like I had this ability that they don't have, and I almost felt a little bit just bad about it.
Yeah.
And after about 3 months, I had that exact thought where I said, "Gosh, I'm so grateful that I don't have to grieve the way that they're grieving because I have such a sometimes." And this sounds so bizarre, probably, but sometimes I forget he died.
Hmm.
Like I'm almost closer to him now than I was before. And the very week I said that to myself, I just couldn't stop crying. And I thought, what the hell is happening to me? I was like, oh, I'm human. I don't get to bypass the grief of my brother just because I have an ability to connect with him. He's not here. He's
Yeah.
physically not here. And so I just cried and cried and cried for like the next couple of days. And it was very humbling for me. I was like, okay, it doesn't matter that I'm a medium. That doesn't negate the fact that I am a human being still. And I'm going to grieve about that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is
And
it.
so like you said, I'm now even more empathetic. I'm even more compassionate than I already was before my brother passed away, because I thought, especially if you've lost a child, I mean, my God, a
Yeah.
spouse, I mean, a sibling, it's just I just have such a different perspective now than I did before July.
I think working as a medium as well. I mean, losing someone really close to you who's young, who should by right still be here
Mhm.
is a huge thing. But also just you realize how transient life is, like how
Mhm.
quickly it can change, how I think the more I've worked with spirit, the more comfort I've had because
Yeah.
I know that it isn't the end. But the more I have realized that life really is a gift because it can and does just change on a heartbeat.
Yeah. Can I share a quick story about the biggest synchronicity I had was because of my brother since he crossed
Yes,
over?
please do.
So, um, he was diagnosed, like I said, for I think 2019. He was in a rehabilitation program because he had had so much medication and surgeries that he needed to go to rehab. And he was at an outpatient rehab center, and they had these activities that you could do and sign up for. One of them was a person doing Reiki, and her name was Karen. And I coincidentally had set up a girl that I know named Karen to do remote Reiki for him on the same day. And so on social media, he took a picture of the calendar and he circled the date July 27th with 4 stars around it and said this, and then he posted it on his Facebook and said, this is such a special day. Thank you to Mary Beth. More to come on this later. And that's the day he died 4 years later, was July 27th.
Oh, wow.
And my niece found that when she was scrolling through his old Facebook just to, feel close to him and look through
Yeah.
memories. And I thought, holy crap, he circled the day of his death with stars around it and said more to come on this later, 4 years before he died. And I thought, like, you can't make this stuff up. And I
Wow.
not that on any level do I think he consciously knew that,
No.
but on some matrix level, I think, that was
Yeah.
incredible.
Incredible.
Mm.
Wow. And the fact that your niece went through and found that,
Yes, yes. I mean, because
yeah,
that's a lot of scrolling to get through 4 years.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that is mind blowing.
yeah.
Amazing.
Have you ever seen the movie Interstellar?
Yes.
That to me is the most fascinating movie, but the best way for me to try to explain time not being linear and possible multiple lifetimes happening at the same time. That is the best depiction I can explain to anybody.
Funnily enough, I
Mhm.
was trying to explain time being a construct to my poor mum who has to listen to all my rubbish all the time. And she said to me, like the film Interstellar, and I hadn't watched it. So I then went home and
No.
downloaded it and watched it and then messaged her and went,
Oh,
yes, like
yes.
the film Interstellar. So that's
Yes.
so funny. Talking of synchronicities that you
Yeah,
would
yeah.
say that.
Mhm. I just got the goosebumps when you said that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, one of the questions I always like to ask every medium that comes on
Mhm.
is If you had an opportunity to say one thing to everybody in on earth, and one thing that you would like them to know about spirit, mediumship, spirituality, themselves, what is it you would say to them?
So I actually heard this metaphor recently, so it's not that old to me, but I feel like, again, talking about metaphors, this to me is a very beautiful metaphor that spirit is as close to us. When I say spirit, I'm talking about our loved ones, or even angels for that matter, are the veil is as thin as a piece of paper. That's how close they are to us. If I'm on this side and they're on the other side, because I feel like a lot of us believe that they're gone, they're away, they're up in the stratosphere somewhere, they're in the cloud. No, they're literally within our energy field. So I think that that's the first thing that came to mind as soon as you asked me that was they're so close, you have no idea.
Yeah, I remember when I first started working with spirit, I would feel like I was lassoing someone in from a cloud because I had such a perception that they were off. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
so sorry to bother you when I know you're trying to live your heavenly experience. So I don't know what I thought they were doing, like
Uh-huh.
an unlimited nap. I guess that's what I'm looking forward to, but you know what I mean? And so I'd be like, I'm so sorry to bother you again. And when I finally broke down
Mhm.
that resistance in me to that I'd taken as fact that wasn't, I went, oh, they're right here, like
Yeah,
right
yeah.
here. I
I
love it.
asked my brother one time in spirit, what is it like? And he said one of the words he said, besides saying peaceful, he said omnipresent. And so that just gives me this validation and comfort to know that he can literally be more than one place at the same time because energy is not dense, it doesn't have to
Yeah,
stay still. So that would be my answer to that. And I hope that that brings people comfort to know that
I love
they're
it.
they're so close to us.
I love it. Thank you for talking to us. One last question for you, which
Mhm.
is what's next for you? What are you looking forward to?
That's a great question. I do a lot of manifesting and intention setting, and I'm always trying to call in people who I can be of service to, that we have a good rapport and good affinity for each other. So I guess just really continuing to call in people who are like-minded that I can be of service for and help bring comfort or clarity. I do work, monthly workshops on different topics, and I actually just began to kick off a longer 6 week kind of course that I'm teaching about how to trust yourself. So
Okay.
I think I'm looking to probably do more type of group setting mentoring. And then also I'm working on a manuscript about a book about the power of telling your truth. So that should be coming up for me in the next year or so.
Fan bloody tastic. I can't
Yeah.
wait to see it all unfold for you, Mary Beth. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. I will put your website in the show notes so that people can look you up and connect with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah.